أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you guys know about this whole the controversial issue that's happened between Asrar Rashid and the great Peer Chuff Chuff, who goes around chuffing on people, and apparently people are being killed, and so Asrar Rashid went down to have a discussion with him, or a debate, or to have a hoo-ha there, causing chaoses wherever he goes. And I made a video on this, and on the same topic, or a similar topic you could say, we've got another person with us who's, mashallah, he's been on our channel before as well. And I mean, he's, alhamdulillah, when we are conversing, he brings out some very good points. So I mean, let's invite with us Ustadh Ahmir Nawaz.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. It's
Wa
always a pleasure
alaikum
to be
salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Amir, how are you doing? You okay?
fine. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me today.
Not a problem. I mean, you've come across the whole issue with this peer issue, and Asrar Rashid going down, and again causing issues and controversies and chaoses, and especially in the city of Birmingham. So I wanted to invite you as well and see what kind of discussion we can have, and what kind of points we can make for the public or for the audience to listen, and if they can benefit from this. What do you think?
Yeah, we can have a discussion. Inshallah.
So before we start with the questions, is there anything you want to say? Anything you want to kind of of this peer culture that's going on, and this whole situation with the Asrar Rashid? Is there anything you want to start off as an intro?
This whole thing with the Asrar Rashid so much isn't the problem, but it's the overarching problem of peer culture in England, and specifically Barelvi culture in England, right? And that's not to say that peers are wrong in their true manifestation, or that Barelvism is wrong in its true manifestation. It's to do with the culture we see today and what's really happening on the ground, which is very problematic.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can shed some light on some of those issues today.
Inshallah. I mean, from the video that I made, many of Asrar Rashid supporters, they didn't like what I said. They were either saying this guy's doing it for fame, he's doing it, he's a clout chaser, the fact that he hates Asrar Rashid. But I mean, just to make it clear, I don't hate Asrar Rashid. In many of my videos, I have said good things about him. I call him Sheikh as well, Sheikh Asrar Rashid. And I think, what is, he's the way, end of the day, look, he's got knowledge, he's got knowledge. But the only thing is that he's not utilizing that knowledge in the right place, according to my opinion. So obviously, since he's a public figure and we're on a public platform, it's my right that I can criticize him and make certain points to make people think, because I don't think that when he's going out and doing all this, confrontations and, going to Peer Chuff Chuff and everything, I just see it like you've got issues in your own communities before you go to Peer Chuff Chuff. So are your own issues, and then we can move on to Peer Chuff Chuff, no issues. But when you don't even acknowledge your people in your own community, big people, people who you admire, who you revere, who you love, who you promote, and when they are saying such things which I mentioned in my video, then there's no point going to Peer Chuff Chuff and being like, oh yeah, we are going to expose him, when you can't expose your people. But yeah, moving on to the first question. So what kind of followers follow peers?
What kind of followers follow peers?
Yeah.
Right. If you look at, so I'm sure you've seen the video of where Chuff Chuff, once he's gone back to Pakistan, he did a rant. Once he escaped from here, went back to Pakistan, he did a rant calling out Asrar Rashid that he wants to challenge him and he's going to win. A very bold claim he backed up by saying that we are Tajdar-e Medina lovers and we will win. Subhanallah, yani when will that guy realize that his neck is on the line and one day his neck is going to break? The amount of times he's hidden behind Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it's really scary. It's really scary, the end of a person like that. But when it comes to peer culture, if we take him as an example, that video that he that his murids published in England, if you remember, only a few days ago, and the guy's panning the crowd. There's not one young person there. There's not one young person there. And everyone that's there is not articulate. They don't seem very highly educated, and they seem like simpletons, right? Pardon me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to say what I feel. And you'll find that why would an educated person, a doctor, a lawyer, a barrister, a teacher, an accountant, or whoever, you'll find that generally these people don't follow pirs like this. And you have to ask yourself the question why that is. And that's because they can see through the mirage. Right? We're talking about the dodgy pirs here. For the most part, there's a massive institutional problem in the subcontinent and in England, and actually all around the world, but we're only concerned with our own areas of spheres of dominance and influence. And it's a specific type of person that ends up falling for the mirage of what pirs offer. Right? And I'm sure, do you see that as well?
I do. I mean, you made a very good point that most of the followers, they are not educated, whether it's in, let's say, in the worldly way or even in the religious way. Because most of the guys, I mean, look at it. They're elders. They're probably not even read the Quran or understood the Quran, and they are following a pir because he's a pir sub, and because people have claimed that, you know, he's cured us and he does so-called miracles.
Well, someone who cures you doesn't make him a pir. And what does it even mean to have a pir? We should ask them, say, what does a pir mean? That he does everything and you do nothing, and even he's really doing nothing and you're doing nothing. You've been with him for 30 years and you don't know the basics of Islam. So what kind of a pir's hands and feet are you kissing? What kind of a pir are you saying that on the Day of Judgment he's going to save you?
This is the issue, you see. Moving on to question number 2. Do you think the Barelvis make themselves look bad? For example, Peer Chuff Chuff. Okay,
so taking that question further out, Muslims generally do make themselves look bad, right? The good Muslims, the one that make Islam look good, are not in the limelight, don't end up on TV, YouTube, or becoming that famous. And the ones that are controversial, that make the loudest noise, that are the most problematic, end up with exposure, and they do make Islam look bad. Again, specifically talking about the Barelvis, our murids, the murids are not educated. They don't pass on the Islamic teachings. Their pirs are not specimens of beauty to look at. You know, they've got this vibe about them that we are everything and we know everything, even if we're uncouth, right? We have spiritual powers, we have these powers, and many of them openly self-proclaim themselves, right? And the stuff that they tell their murids to do and their murids do gives Islam a very bad name. So a case in point would be the Naqshbandi Safis. They had their day in England about 20 years ago. They're still around, and in Pakistan they're quite big. They're the ones who wear the massive turbans with the colored hats underneath. And they're headbangers. They are known as Muslim headbangers. They believe in the pir gives them some superpower touch, and they get an electric current, and they start dancing around, jumping around, and this is Islam, right? And this is being picked up by the opposition on YouTube and made fun of. I mean, this is, first of all, how ignorant must they all be, right? And what kind of an ignorant murid must you be, a person must you be to join something like that? You know, does that even remotely look like the religion of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? And the actual pir, the huge disservice he's doing by acting like that and claiming he has something, right, when he has nothing. And Chuff Chuff falls in the same bracket. He's an utter disgrace, a liar, a dajjal in the name of lying about Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right, hiding behind the blessed name of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And what's even more shameful is we have people like Muzammil Hussain Shah, right? His name is Pir. Honorifically, I should call him Pir, but I honestly don't believe he's a Pir. Because again, what's the criteria of a Pir? Does he fulfill the criteria of a Pir? Sitting next to him, we saw the video when he came to England. You're sitting next to him promoting his ignorance, promoting his lies.
मैं क्या पा गया पुत्रा था तस्वीर पढ़ी तो ना तुम्हें बात समझ आया ये एक राग है एक लफ्ज है जो पीर साहब पढ़ते हैं हालांकि मैं इस बाजार से बोल रहा हूँ मुझे सारा इल्म है लेकिन मैं नहीं करता ना कर सकता हूँ इन्हों को ने तो किया है ये एक लफ्ज है जो पढ़ते हैं जिसे फूक मार दिया काम हो जाता है वो लफ्ज इन्हीं का है वो उस लफ्ज की यही आमिल है और आमिल की कामिल है उसने क्या कहा भाई शाह साहब कामिल के वाले साहब की खबर के अंदर जब गया ना क्या लगे खुदा की कसम वो कामिल है आमिल नहीं है इनके वाले साहब जो है वो कामिल थे आमिल का और मकाम है कामिल का और मकाम है जो आमिल भी हो कामिल भी हो वो सोने पे सुहागा होता है ये पीर आमिल भी है कामिल भी और कामिल का बेटा है इसलिए यारो जो कामिल की औलाद होती है ना सरका पुश्ता तक वली बोर्ड है ना सच पुश्तों तक अल्लाह का वली काम करता है वह काना को हमा सालेहा जो नबी को दीवारें बना रहे थे कुरान ने बयान किया है वो यतीमी आयमा थी मूसा अलैहिस्सलाम और खिदर दीवार बना रही है उनका बाबा अल्लाह का वली था वो भी सातवीं पुश्त में है अली का अल्लाह का वली सात पुश्तों में काम आता है ये दूसरी पुश्त है ये लंबा काम ही है धीरे काम करने ये कामल का बेटा है इसलिए इनकी फूक में वो तस्वीर है तू फूका मारना तेरी बीवी नहीं बनती तेरी बननी जो तेरे हाथ है ना मैं पीर नु कहा मैंने कहा ये बात मुश्किल है कि हर मर्द के पीछे कामयाबी के पीछे किसी और का हाथ होता है और मैं क्या पागला हाथ होता है मां का धी का भैन का या बीवी का तो दो कदे दुनिया कटिया करके सवाल का इससे नहीं होता मर्द की कामयाबी उसके तकवे में है उसके किरदार में है अगर मर्द किरदार वाला है तो वो अजीब है इसलिए पीर साहब का किसी का सवाल नहीं
saying that he has something. I know it because I do it too, but I'm not on his level. He has something, he has a word. Yani, don't you fear Allah? Don't you fear Allah? Everybody knows, even from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they all know that Chuff Chuff is a utter fraud. The biggest problem is they don't speak out against him, and we'll talk about why. But this guy had the goal to sit next to him. So you have to ask yourself the question why he was doing that. Personal fame? Some kind of joining power politics in play? Allahu A'lam, we can't, husnul zan, we can't judge the internal affairs of anybody, but outwardly this is what it looks like. And for me, like, I've totally lost respect and credibility for Muzammil Hussain Shah. Right? He was not someone that I looked up to before anyway. I didn't really think much of that guy. And now, especially after what you did, sitting next to him, promoting him and lying about him. Subhanallah. So of course, we are our biggest enemies. We don't need anybody else to punch us in the face. We're punching ourselves in the face and hacking our own foot at the same time. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me, when they say that, people from the same field, they back each other up. So one peer which is very clear now that he's not really a peer, he just uses peer as a title. And the funny thing is that, the lay people, whether it's the men or the women, they have no knowledge about the religion. They have no knowledge which sect or which group they are following. They just know Sunni Wahhabi. That's all they know. They have no idea what Sunni is, and they have no idea what Wahhabi is. They have no idea that even the Wahhabis say that we are the real Sunnis. So they think there are two sects over here, Sunni and Wahhabis, and we are Sunnis and Wahhabis. They have no idea, even if they call themselves Sunnis, what type of Sunnis they are. They don't even know whether we follow Imam Abu Hanifa or we follow this Imam or that Imam. They don't even know, today which, scholars that we are meant to follow. Yeah, anyone with a long beard who seems to be, saying things like, I don't know, what Barelvis normally say, they would accept it. But when it comes to these peers, and, one thing I want to quickly say is the fact that, in my video I said that, this Peer Chuff Chuff and the fact that people are following him, this is the end product or the last product of, the end product of Barelvism. And that was the reason why I said that is because whenever look at our elders who have been going to Barelvi masjids, they've been following Barelvi Maulvis, Imams. They've never been told, commanded, go home, read the Quran, understand the Quran, you should study. If we make a mistake, come and tell us that, we made a mistake. Be open with us. Like, for example, me and yourself, we're having this open Q&A, we are talking to each other. If I think you made a mistake, I will say, brother, you made a mistake. If I made a mistake, you can say to me, bro, you made a mistake here. But our elders were terrified of the Maulvis. Am I right or wrong, brother? Yeah,
Yeah,
they were
I've seen
terrified.
many examples of this.
Yeah, they were terrified. And even now, if you talk to the elders, they will never dare go to the Maulvis and ask questions. So similarly, these people, they were so ignorant. And on top, when they used to go to the masjids, then they were never taught by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were always taught about so and so wali or pir. He was doing this miracle and that miracle. He was flying here and flying there, and it is so many things.
Yep.
Now, when Peer Chuff Chuff, who's a living example, who performs so-called miracles, people see this and they say, "Oh well, look, so and so went to him. So and so had cancer." They have no idea who this person is with cancer, just because they saw a video that was planned. A person claims I had cancer, went to Pir Chuff Chuff, he did 2-3 chuff chuff dums on me, and next minute the cancer, it disappeared. Someone couldn't walk, he's on a wheelchair, within 2 seconds of the chuff chuff, he starts walking. Because people see this, they say, oh well, awliya, walis, they do miracles. So if this guy is chuff chuffing on these people and they are being cured, he must be Allah, he must be a wali of Allah. So this following started from somewhere, and look where it is now. To the fact, to the extent where people are now saying that this guy, he is the doorkeeper of Khatam Nabuwat.
We, the Khadams of the Barelvi Movement Sharif, we stand in solidarity. Hazur se pasar akida Khatam Nabuwat. Kalam ke dora sab zada haq Khateeb Hussain Ali Badshah Sarkar. They say that until my last breath, I will still raise the slogan of Taj Dare Khatam Nabuwat. Taj Dare Khatam Nabuwat. Taj Dare Khatam Nabuwat. Taj Dare Khatam Nabuwat.
Did you see all the people in the video? They were little kids were shouting and screaming Taj Dare Khatam Nabuwat, associating that to Pir Chuff Chuff, who till date, watch any of his videos, not a single Quranic verse is ever recited. He does the Chuff Chuff, and the guy next to him, he is giving the lectures, and all he says is, we are here for the Taj Dare Khatam Nabuwat. And when he's talking, it feels like he's got pan in his mouth or something.
Lipstick. He wears makeup.
Yeah, exactly. Some lipstick, some pan or something he's having, and he can't talk properly. And this is the issue. People see anyone doing any. For example, if I was to say, I'm going to do a miracle, yeah? Can you see my finger coming off?
Yeah. Oh my God. Teach me that miracle, man. I need to know that miracle. I believe in you, man. I want to be your marid. Can I be your marid?
There we go. Now, this is me, a normal person. But if Pir Chuff Chuff tries to look, I can take my finger off, and he actually did this trick. People say, look, oh, mashallah, look, he took his finger off. Can you do it? Can you do it? And that's the reason I said this is the end product of Barelvism, because the imams, the Maulvis, they never taught the people anything apart from the.
Yeah, just want to add to that. The problem is the two main problems is that, number one, our state, which claims to be an Islamic state based on an Islamic constitution, they should be the first ones that should rein him in and punish him. Yeah. If not for anything but for fraud, at least for fraud. They're not doing that. Number two, our collective peers haven't done anything either. Right? If they got together and condemned this guy again and again, right, by now people would have learnt their lesson. But half of the peers are doing the same thing. So why would they put an axe to their own foot? Right? So that's the reason why. And if this Chuff Chuff was in Saudi Arabia, he wouldn't last one day. They'd chop his head off.
Yeah. Right. So moving on to the next question, which is, what is wrong with Pir culture in the UK and Pakistan, where they all came from?
So this is it. We've been highlighting some of the problems here. The problem is that in the beginning, when the Pakistani, Indian, Bengali community came to England in the 60s and 70s, it was single men coming to work, banded together, and sometimes they'd have a person amongst them who was somewhat Islamically educated, or who was fully Islamically educated and was like an alim or a pir also. And naturally, these guys organized prayer circles, study circles, and stuff like that. And as a result, these people, they did the initial laying down of the groundwork for the the nascent Muslim community in England. And some of them got it right, and very quickly some of them started getting it wrong. But once the power bases were set, and what it is that you have power bases, you have like groups, blocks, people aligned. Just like, for example, in England, you have mosque blocks that are aligned together. So you'll have 20 Barelvi mosques aligned, and then another 20 Barelvi mosques that differ somewhat, and the Deobandis have the same thing, and the Salafis have the same thing. Likewise, you have blocks, power bases of ulama. So you have one, and a lone Pir, no matter how good his intention is, will not survive if he doesn't align with one of them, if he doesn't toe the larger party line. So that's where the problem is. Once that happened, once you had power bases, sometimes they look after their own interests. And as a result, the initial work gained a lot of traction. Whatever you see, the groundwork in England now was done by those peers, was done by our grandparents and parents who, hats off to them. They did a great service. But that's an outdated system now that's firmly set in the past. Our peers are in the mosques, isolated, totally cut off from mainstream society. They don't know what's going on. They don't even speak the language, and the youth don't speak their language. There's a massive disconnect, and it was because of the disconnect that people started going towards Wahhabism, where everything was in English. And that's created the problem. And the people who educate themselves, they can see through the facade, and they're like, this guy doesn't seem very sophisticated. This guy doesn't seem very elegant. This guy doesn't speak, my tongue, and they move away. And these peers gather around themselves, the uneducated, the taxi drivers, the factory workers, and the everyday workers, or even lawyers and them lot that are, that have a bit of love for the peer. But this is the problem. The problem is if the peer is genuine, okay, excellent. But even if the peer is genuine, the peer is not your community leader, because he's isolated. If he can teach you tasawwuf, excellent, which most of them don't. But if he did, excellent. But he's not a community leader outside of the mosque. He's a community leader per se in a small sphere, but it's when you give him powers over your marriage, over your medical cures, over your life decisions, over who your daughter's going to marry, over where you're going to study, right? And the peers control every facet of your life. That's the problem. And that peer, number one, he doesn't have the right. Number two, when he does that, you've been isolated in your mosque for 40 years. What do you know about your Murid's son, who is now 20 and wants to make life-changing decisions, that you're making a village decision that looks good in India or Pakistan? Right? That's the problem with the peer culture in England at the moment.
Yeah, this issue is, there are many mosques, even in the area, where I live, is that most of the people in the masjid are the elders who can't speak Urdu. Who can't speak English, and they only speak Urdu. And when let's say you go for a khutbah, for the Jummah khutbah, the Maulvi Sahib is always a person who's speaking Urdu, and there are youngsters there who don't understand a word of it. Now, unfortunately, some of the elders always say that, nowadays, the younger generation, they don't know their language, they've become gore now, and, they use such languages. Well, to be honest, they live in this country, they live in, the United Kingdom, they live in England, and it's a bit obvious, the upbringing, going to schools, it's all going to be in English. If you really had the time, you would have put you would have put the time in to teach them the Urdu language, but you didn't. So the English is basically the first language now. They are going to the masjid, and they are only going there. Why? Because dad said or mom said that you've got to go and pray, and we are only here to pray. We don't understand what the Maulvi Sahib said, what he's talking about. The khutbah he's given about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No idea what the Maulvi Sahib has said. So I think this is one thing that we have to highlight as well. That now I think we've got to move some people back now and bring the educated generations forward and say, right now, because most of the people here are speaking, the youngsters are speaking in English, we need someone who's open with the younger generation and can make them feel comfortable and welcome into the masjids, and don't do what we did, that when people used to come and ask us questions, we used to scare them away, or we used to be like, you're doing our be'adabi, you are disrespecting us by asking these questions. You be open, and welcome people and welcome the youngsters, especially if for example, like in this day and age, living in the West, right? A lot of the younger generation, after listening and watching some videos on YouTube, they get doubts about Islam. Now, I'll be honest with you. If I had doubts about Islam, could I go to my local Maulvi Sahib? I couldn't. Why? Because I knew, oh, astaghfirullah, guna is sin, is a sin, and I couldn't really get an answer from them. And even if you ask the elders in the family, they will say, astaghfirullah, this is the shaitan talking. He's whispering in it. These things would never make sense to a younger person. So, like I said, we've got to highlight, bring out the younger generations forward, who are learning, who are educating themselves in the deen, and tell them, be more welcome, welcome the next, generation, and be open with them and welcome them, and do these Q&As and make them feel very comfortable. Moving on.
I'll tell you something, quick one on this. I'll tell you something very scary, right? So every generation has a specific attack towards Islam, on Islam. And the ulama class and the Pir class, who claim to have leadership of the Muslims in the UK, the Barelvis in the UK, right? They need to be ready to be able to challenge these. They need to know about them, rebut them, and then re-educate, realign the Muslims who are in trouble back onto the right path. Now, what's happening is, in this generation, the biggest problem is atheism. Many Muslim children are becoming atheists, and every decade we have a new challenge. So the challenge of like this decade is probably atheism and the ahruf of the Quran, the preservation of the Quran. Yet our ulama are not aware of what's happening outside. They're not aware of the dominant attacks on Islam, which are on YouTube now. And even if they were, they're not in a position, due to a lack of specialization, a lack of ability to communicate effectively in the English language, to be able to give some sort of proofs and everything to the Muslims in question. And it doesn't work in passing. You need to create workshops. You need to have study circles. You need to have like a watch group that looks out, has antennas out in the community, that knows exactly what's going on. And you have crisis workshops in place that, okay, we know this one, we've got a team to handle it. Right? We know this problem, we've got another team to handle it. Or we know this one, we've got a sisters team to handle it, and then we've got extra fences in place and gates in place, and we have doorways, safe doorways. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Let's go and have a Garwi Sharif, which no one attends now. Let's go and eat some halwa. Let's have a massive feast, right? And some of them, oh yeah, Jamaat, Ishani Jamaat, oh no worries, we'll pray or not pray, and out of the masjid. Right? Sadly, this is what it's become.
Alhamdulillah, I grew up watching Dr. Zakir Naik. And my father, I remember, as a kid, he used to put Peace TV on. Other things to aside, the differences, such as he made some comments about Yazid and praised him, but then later on he talked about, he has made some controversial statements, but putting them to the side, the fact that when he spoke about Islam and Christianity, when he cleared misconceptions, when he welcomed the non-Muslims and said, right, ask any question you want. And they would ask, the deepest questions, the most controversial questions, and he would answer them right there and then. I am so thankful, and I am so lucky that I grew up in the environment. People who I know who are maybe the same age as me, who are probably close to me as well, did they choose or did they want to be in the same environment? No. And them same people, as you just mentioned, they do gyarvis. They go to the masjid. Why? Because mom and dad said it, or we just go and pray. They have no idea about the khutbah. You ask them questions about Islam, they have no idea about what practices they are doing. They're only doing it. Why? Because family is doing it. Because my father said we have to do it. Gyarvi Sharif, we have to do it. Why? Because it's been something that our forefathers have been doing, and we will have to keep on doing it. And they cannot even ask questions from the parents, because they know that if we were to ask these questions, to our parents are going to start basically flipping. They are going to start getting angry and saying, "Oh, what does it say? Our munda's gone basically. He's gone gumrah. He's going towards Wahhabism now because he asked a question about let's say Gyanvi Sharif. So this is the issue. But yeah, the next question is, So what is all this hocus pocus, the Pir Zoo anyway, and why do people believe in it?
Hocus pocus.
All this magic and all this, sorry, no magic, miracles and all
Yeah,
these
yeah,
things.
magic. It's magic as well, you can say. But
No,
if
I
you
mean,
go back to that video,
I don't want to use
no,
magic. I don't want people to say that I've done the be basically. I've disrespected by calling it magic. Only
okay, cool.
miracle.
I'll call a spade a spade. It's magic. So going back to that video of Maulvi Mazammil Hussain Shah. Why I'm calling him Maulvi? Because he kept on saying Maulvi. Stop saying Maulvi, right? I don't see him as a Pir, especially after what he did. I don't see him as a Pir. So Maulvi Mazammil Hussain Shah, he turned around and said, the father of Chuff Chuff, right? Somebody went into the grave and saw that he is Amil and Kamil.
वो लफ्ज इन्हीं का है, वो उस लफ्ज की यही आमिल है और आमिल की कामिल है। उसने क्या कहा ये शाह साहब, कामिल के वाले साहब की खबर के अंदर जब गया ना, कहने लगे खुदा की कसम वो कामिल है, आमिल नहीं है। इनके वाले साहब जो है वो कामिल थे। आमिल का और मकाम है, कामिल का और मकाम है। जो आमिल भी हो, कामिल भी हो, वो सोने पे सुहागा होता है।
Right? So an Amil and Kamil, what does that mean? Kamil means in Tasawwuf, you've attained the heights. So you are an Arif, and you've attained Ma'rifah, you are a Kamil Wali, as they say. Right? Okay. So that means that, yeah. So now you have, whatever you say has weight. An Amil is...
In other words, you could say an official Pir now. Sorry, an official Wali now.
I don't, I can't, I'm not in a position to say that, but I understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And then you have an Amil. An Amil is someone who studied magic, who studied so-called white magic. Yes, right. And he's able to now issue cures, pass on cures, right? So some of them are from Quran and Sunnah, but the majority of them are not from Quran and Sunnah. They have their own ideas and stuff that they do. And the problem is that if I, for example, say I don't believe in that, people will attack me and say, astaghfirullah, what are you doing? He's a Pir, he's an Amil, he's doing stuff. But this is nothing to do with Islam. What he's doing and what he's preaching, the magic he's doing has got nothing to do with Islam. So I can denounce it, right? And the thing is that we've all in our young age visited these guys who said, you've got the worst possible conditions going on in your family, in your life, you're possessed, you've got magic on you. And they're telling you cures that are absolutely mad, bonkers. And people, they actually humiliate people. So the biggest tragedy is I'm going to give Chuff Chuff because he's the visible one now. Let's say you've got a problem. You've got a massive problem in your house, big mujburi. It's been going on for years. Someone's got cancer. Someone's become disabled. Or your marriages are breaking up. Your children are going astray. You're desperate. You will go anywhere. And you will see these people as your last resort. And when you get to them and when they lead you on, do this and this will happen. Do this and this, and nothing happens. And you keep paying more, or you're obliged to pay. And they break you. They literally destroy you, right? And people will disagree with me, but simply go and do your research. It's magic, so-called white magic. And the question is where is the proof it works? You show me an original book with a sanad going back to the first magician, right? We know in the Quran the story of Harut and Ma'rut. They came down to teach mankind magic. Whoever followed them is astray. That's black magic, which straight away leads you out of Islam. Breaking a man up from his wife and all sorts of stuff. But this so-called white magic, right? Where is your sanad? Where is your lead? I could write a book today and publish it, make all sorts of diagrams and say, oh, this was found somewhere and it goes back 2,000 years, right? Yeah, it's all nonsense, but people fall for this.
It reminds me of, I've mentioned this so many times now that I've memorized the whole thing. Data sahib ki gori, wahi andheri raat, zaid ka dard, sir ka jai, yahi hai meri aas. And this is, again, the very famous, cure by Ilyas Qadri Sahab from, Maulana Ilyas Qadri Sahab, or Pir Maulana Ilyas Qadri Sahab. wherever people think is best for him, or the title they want to give him, who is the Amir Ahle Sunnat of Dawat Islami. And many people, such as I mentioned before as well, Asrar Rashid has praised him and said, he's a person who commands people to follow the Sunnah. And so he was asked, regarding this whole thing about, if you've got pain, what should I do? And he said, our elders have said that, this is the way. So if you've got pain on the head, let's say, put your hand over there and, say that Asad ki Gori, and, you would be cured. But you've got to believe in it. You've got to believe in the Buzurg, the elder, the Pir Sahib, whoever it is. And then I made another video regarding where someone asked him about a dog's bite. I don't know if you've seen that video, where he mentioned if someone is bitten by a dog, what should he do? So first he says, recite so and so durood and so dua. But then the tables they basically turn when he says, what does he say? He says, get white chickeny mitti, some clay, and make like 7 tablets out of them, and then called 7 kids and give them each one, tablet, and then ask them to break it on the floor. Now, this goes back to our other point, the point that you made regarding the halwa and everything. Then he says, call a person who neither drinks or takes any intoxications and he's free from any kind of drugs and smoking, exactly. And who's especially a 5 times namazi, person, should be dindar, especially. Call him and tell him to make suji ka halwa.
बाउला कुत्ता यानी पागल कुत्ता, मेड डॉग, तो अगर किसी को पागल कुत्ता काट जाए तो इतनी मिट्टी को जो पानी से गूंद कर रखा है उस पर दम कर लीजिए और इसकी 7 गोलियां बनाइए और वो गोलियां 7 नाबालिग बच्चों को दीजिए। फिर हर बच्चे से एक गोली लेकर जमीन पर मारकर तोड़ दीजिए। ये अमल 3 दिन तक जारी रखिए। इंशाअल्लाह ताला मरीज सेहतयाब हो जाएगा। तीसरे दिन एक ऐसे नमाजी आदमी से जो सिगरेट बीड़ी वगैरह का आदी ना हो, मैं सिगरेट वगैरह ना पीता हूं और ना ही तंबाकू वाला पान खाता हूं, 1.25 पाव सोजी का हलवा उससे तैयार करवाइए। हलवा तैयार करने से कबल उसको वुजू करवा लीजिए।
And inshallah, you will be cured from the dog bite. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning these 2 things is because on one hand, we've got a famous Pir who does chuff, 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 and people are, apparently they're getting cured. On the other side, we have another, mashallah, Amir Ahle Sunnat. We have another Pir Sahib, Maulana Sahib, who's accepted in the Sunni world, well, in the Barelvi Sunni world, not the Deobandis, I'm about the Barelvi Sunni world. They accept him, they call him Bapa Jani, and he's our Pir Sahib, and people say, we saw him in a dream. There's one video, I can't remember, there's a video where this man comes in his gathering and tells him that 12-15 years ago, we met in a gathering and you broke some roti, some chapati, and you put it in salan, in some food, and you gave it to me so I can eat it, but I kept that safe with me, and until now I've still got it. And then he said in the gathering, he said, anyone who wants to come and do ziyarat of the roti, of the food, you can come and do it.
आप 1990 से पहले जलालपुर जट्टा में तशरीफ़ लाए थे कमोबेश 2 दफ़ा। तो सबसे पहले इलियास अत्तारी साहब आपको सलाम कह रहे थे। उधर आपने एक मोहम्मदिया मस्जिद है, असर की जमात उधर करवाई थी और उस मस्जिद की हादमियत है इस वक्त मेरे पास। तो दूसरा प्यारे बाबा जान आपने उधर खाना खाया था, ठीक है,
बहुत याद रखा आपने। तो आप तो छोटे होंगे उस वक्त।
मैं 1994 में बैत हुआ था, 7वीं क्लास में पढ़ता था।
उस वक्त उम्र बहुत छोटी होगी आपकी।
जी ऐसे ही है। तो उधर प्यारे बाबा जान खाना खाने के दौरान आपने एक लुकमा दिया था मजर भाई को, खाने के लिए दिया था, लेकिन उन्होंने आज तक संभाल के रखा हुआ है, ठीक है। लुकमा तोड़ के रोटी का, अच्छा, वैसे पकड़ाया था उन्हें,
खाया नहीं
उन्होंने आपसे छुपा के ना अपने पास रख लिया, ठीक है। अब इंतकाल हो चुका है, उनकी मफरत के लिए दुआ फरमाइएगा। तो प्यारे बाबा जान उधर ना मुर्गे की हड्डियां और वो जो रोटी का टुकड़ा है अगर ज़ियाकोट गुजरात वाले भाई या जलालपुर जट्टा वालों ने वो टुकड़े की ज़ियारत करनी हो तो प्यारे बाबा जान की करामत है जलालपुर जट्टा में इस वक्त वो रोटी का टुकड़ा अभी प्यारे बाबा जान ऐसे नरम और ताज़ा है कि जैसे एक ही रोटी पहले ही दिन की ये रोटी है। नूर की बरसात हो। और आखिर में प्यारे बाबा जान मेरे लिए मफरत की दुआ, मेरे माँ बाप के लिए, और 6 साल हो गए मेरी शादी को, और औलाद नरीना के लिए दुआ फरमाइए।
अल्लाह ताला नेक औलाद आफियत के साथ।
हड्डियां भी ताज़ी हैं।
Now look at this.
That's disgusting. That's disgusting.
You're saying is disgusting, but I mean, unfortunately, majority of the Barelvis, they don't say it's disgusting. They say Subhanallah, Subhanallah. So I think it's pretty much the same thing. You take this Peer Chuff Chuff out of the picture. He's gone now. Let's say he's finished. He's been punished by the law. But then what happens about this Peer here? What's going to happen to him? Even he's giving these so-called cures, you know, that don't make sense.
The answer is actually a bit nuanced for this one. So what we need to understand is the stuff that you're talking about, you know, you put chini on the floor and all this.
No, chikni mitti.
Chikni mitti on the floor. This is all part of the same amil business, right? The all, you know, magical cures and all sorts of nonsense. You know, in English books of magic, old wives, old grandma's books of magic, you get the same stuff. If you've got warts, you grab a toad with warts and you rub it over your warts and you put it at crossroads. Whoever picks it up, he will get the warts. Yeah. Or like in Pakistan, you have like, you know, you rub an egg over you, smash the egg, or get gosht, and then you rub the gosht over you, and in Turkey, Turkish, I mean, I know someone in Turkey who does some similar stuff as well, wearing something, you're naked and you wear chola over you and you walk up and down the room in darkness, right, reciting Ayatul Kursi.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
You want to be naked when you're doing
that? Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's another one. I'm not sure if they see this as a cure or something, I don't know, or supernatural or something. But apparently they say that if someone's got pain on the back, let's say they've got back pain, a specific location, there's always someone who has some kind of ability to cure them by kicking them on the back. I don't know if you've heard of that one. So
the Pirs, you know, like sometimes the cure can involve many things, right? A slap, you know, a punch, or a beat, or you know, there are many things. And now here's the nuanced answer. So if you go into these books of magic, you will find a variety of cures, right? And there's 2 ways of understanding them. Either it doesn't work and it's psychosomatic, which I believe it is, or if it works, it's the jinn making fools out of you, right? Degrading, dishonoring the human being who's made in the Adamic mold, a Muslim. Because I've seen the most craziest things in Pakistan. I did Pakistan did the tour of Pakistan for 5 months for exactly this purpose, chasing these people. And I saw the most extraordinary madness you'd ever see. Some things I saw that stunted me. I was like, whoa, how did they do this? But when you get past the mirage, it's very easy to work out what's happened here. It's just magic at play, right? And some of the things I ended up replicating myself. So, and what it is that sometimes they will give you a dua, they will give you some Quranic verses mixed in with this hocus pocus, and it's the dua that, you know, Allah is listening to, it's the salawat that you're doing and Allah likes what you've done, and it can be that. But you're absolutely right? Chuff Chuff is just one example, and he's not even an extreme example. He's only got one card in his itinerary. He's only got one card in his pocket, and he's milking it to its maximum. But these other guys, they have a host of things that they do, right? And it's all complete and utter nonsense. For example, when you have a jinn and you go to these people, you know, knock this nail in the corners of all 4 of your houses, or put this taweez at your front door, or here's this and this. None of it works. None of it works.
Put a lemon there.
Yeah, put a lemon there or whatever. I mean, having having water and blowing on it, yes, we have a precedent for that. That does work, right? Or mixing it in a bowl with kalam Allah and then drinking it. These things are established from our salaf in the past. That does work. But anything that's, like it's all the same thing. So we've got a massive institutional problem. The educated of us need to educate the ones who don't know, but the educated of us don't care. Like there's utter silence in the Barelvi school. It's all about brushing everything under the carpet. And, as long as you're Ashki Rasul, that's it. As long as the Janda shows, everything is good. But all the other problems are all hidden and brushed away under the carpet.
Moving on to the next question, and it's something similar to what you said before. So, what is the difference between Amil and Kamil that Pir Muzammil Hussain Shah was talking about?
That was the same thing, right? So an Amil is someone who's mastered these magic science, right? It's got nothing to do with Islam. He's read books of magic. He's read books of, picked up a book and say, oh, this is the cure for this. This is the cure for this. This is the cure for this. Go to a graveyard at night time, get a fish, write your name on it, and bury that fish in a grave. Since when is that an Islamic cure? And I've been told to do this when I went to these guys myself, right?
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. I've just something just come to mind. I'm going to mention as well.
So these amils, it's a science that they dabble in, a pseudoscience that there's no checks and balances and there's no way of you proving it. It's all complete and utter nonsense, right? We have Quran, we have Sunnah, and we have traditional medicines, the humoral theory of the Greeks, we have Ayurveda of the Indians, the dosas of the body, we have traditional Chinese medicine with this chi flow. These work, these have been tested for thousands of years. You can pick up any of these and balance yourself and you'll be better. Many of the problems that you think you have, jinn and all sorts of, it's just imbalances in you. You check your sleep, you check your hormones, you check your life balances, your stress levels, magically the jinn vanishes. But that's not to say that we don't have jinn, but 99% of people who claim to have jinn or suffer the ain, evil eye, or suffer magic, it's not that, right? And your first point of call should be calling Allah first, or calling upon Allah first, right? And then going to a doctor and getting yourself checked out, and forget about these amils that you go to.
It actually reminds me when you mentioned the fish part of it, to find a fish and X, Y, and Z. I said this in my previous video, that again, Maulana Ilyas Qadri Sahab, he's my elder, I'm going to call him with respect, but when it comes to the deen and he says anything that is not there, I will be harsh, I will be lenient. But anyways, he was asked about the fact that if one person can't sleep at night, what should you do? Now I'm not sure if you've come across that clip, where he gives mashallah he gives a very unique cure to that. He says, well, find an owl, and the eye that's closed, first you obviously kill it. After you kill it, then you take the eye out, put it in a cloth and wear it, and you'll be able to sleep.
मैंने इसके बारे में ये पढ़ा था कि ये जब सोता है तो एक आंख बंद करता है, दूसरी आंख बंद नहीं करता। तो इसलिए अगर किसी को नींद ना आती हो, इसको ज़बा करके इसकी वो आंख जो बंद होती है ना, ये पहन ले, किसी कपड़े वगैरह में लपेट के पहन लेगा ना, तो अब इसको नींद आ जाएगी। अब सोया पड़ा रहे, पर नींद उड़ा नहीं हो तो ये आंख पहन ले, अब ये करवटें लेता रहे, इसको नींद नहीं आएगी।
I mean, what's the owl done? Why? That
that's torture, that's zulm. You've killed an innocent creature of Allah.
Exactly. And then on top, it reminds me,
it's a disgusting thing, right? So you're wearing an owl. Since when did Islam say this is barbaric, this is wahshi, this is not human, respectable behavior? Since when are you allowed to wear dead body parts of animals around you?
There we go.
This is basic Islam, right?
Yeah, 100%. And then it reminds me of the fact that, well, if Maulana Ilyas Qadri Sahab can say that, then in one of the books he also mentions, and I think we might have, I've mentioned this again in many of my videos, regarding the karamat of Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani. He used to have a khadim, a person who used to help him, to do wudu, and one day he did a very heinous action. And the heinous action was that he put the lota, the direction of the lota, he put it in a different direction when it should have been towards the direction of the Qibla. And when the Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani saw this, now this is in the book of Dawat Islamis, they wrote a book called Jinnat Ka Badshah. And he saw this and he was so angry at what his murid has done that he looked at him with such rage that man, he just trembled and he died. So now they've said that Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, he murdered, he had the power. He knew that I've got the power to look at you. So he had the power to look at you and you could die. But he chose to look at you that way and he killed you. So they put him, I mean, what's the best words I can use? They've thrown Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, who we also
Under the
consider,
bus.
Under the bus basically. And then they're going to complain, oh, you don't bear the bee, or you don't gustahi, or
That's what they will say. Yeah.
No, but your people, your elders have, they've already done that. How dare he kill an innocent person? Why? Because as they say, Lota Sharif. The Lota Sharif was not facing the Qibla and he killed him. So Islamically speaking, on the day of judgment, if this is true, if this really happened, I don't think it happened. I think it's a fabrication.
No, I don't believe it happened.
Yeah.
This is exaggerated.
And people, they have the murids. Well, according to Dawat Islami, then on the day of judgment, because he's killed an innocent person, what's going to be the hukam? What's going to be the punishment for that specific thing that Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani? They don't even feel scared when they fabricate.
My friend, a long time ago, like someone I know, he's quite a religious Sufi, very religious Sufi actually. And he said to me that in the time of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, rahimullah, he said, if you call his name out without adab, literally your necks would get chopped off by angels. He said people's necks would get cleaned off by angels.
I don't know about the details, but I have heard that anyone who said it without wuzu, right, he'd just die.
बुजुर्गान दीन औलिया उज़्ज़ाम कोई किताबों के अंदर ये लिखा है कि जो आपका नाम बेवज़ू लिया करता था, आपका नाम बेवज़ू लेता था, तो उसके ऊपर मुफलिसी या तंग दस्ती आ जाती थी। और जैसा कि मैंने पिछले बयान में अर्ज़ किया था कि सैयद अब्दुल कादिर अरबली रहमतुल्लाह अलैह फरमाती हैं कि इब्तिदा में जो शख्स भी आपका नाम बेवज़ू लेता, उसकी ज़ुबान कट कर ज़मीन पर गिर जाती या वो हलाक हो जाती।
उनकी बड़ी बरकत है। बादशाह का हाल ये था कि गौसे पाक का नाम कोई बेवजू लेता था तो वो मर जाता, कि गौसे पाक का नाम कोई बेवजू लेता था तो वो मर जाता। बादशाह का नाम कोई बेवजू लेता था तो हमारे बुजुर्गों ने ये बात सूफिया ने कही है। मुमकिन है आप इस पे इतराज करें जोर भी हो, लेकिन सूफिया कहते हैं कि बेवजू का नाम कोई ले नहीं सकता, कि रसूल पाक ने है अब्दुल कादिर मेरे उम्मत पे रहम पर लोग शरफ से नुकसान होते हैं, क्योंकि रसूल पाक ने है अब्दुल कादिर मेरे उम्मत पे रहम पर लोग शरफ से नुकसान होते हैं। ठीक है कि अब नहीं मरेगा बेगुसल, अगर बेगुसल नापाकी में नाम लेगा तो अब नहीं मरेगा, लेकिन सूफिया अहलुल्लाह भी कहते हैं अगर नापाकी में अब भी कोई गौस पाक का नाम ले तो कम से कम उसका इतना नुकसान पहुंचता है कि उसका एक बाल टूट।
So this is what I'm saying. This is how we Barelvis make themselves look bad, right? And there's going to be haters now. There's going to be people saying all sorts of stuff, but let them speak, right? The truth needs to be told, right? Now, Ghaus Pak, see, this is through with adab. I'm calling him Ghaus Pak, right? A very great saint, one of the greatest we've had. And all these stories that you have of them.
I'm so sorry to cut you off, but I don't think we have to respect him to the extent and call him Ghaus Pak. We can't call him. He was Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, Rahmatullah alayh. We could use a title. We don't have to say Ghaus Pak, because if you think about what Ghaus Pak means as well. Now, the way Dawat Islami call him Ghaus Pak, they have a deep meaning to that.
I know. The word Ghaus is like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, this is the thing, right? Now, if you don't call him Ghaus Pak, to the extremists, you're a Gustakh, and they're going to fight you, right? This is the extremism in the school. If you don't believe he did any miracle, that's not a problem. That's not a problem, right? Even if you, for example, don't agree with the man based on your ignorance, it's not a problem. Let people live. But the thing is that we do believe in Ghaus Pak. We understand his greatness. We do accept miracles. But when you read some of the miracles, they seem very strange. And I am in a position, we are all in a position to rightly say, you know what, this doesn't sound right. And no one can challenge you on it. Do you know why? You don't need qualifications to say, someone's going to say, what's your qualifications to say this don't sound right? It's not an exact science. You're not going to be questioned about this. Your faith isn't based on a miracle that Ghaus Pak did, right? You are not allowed to challenge the teachings of Ghaus Pak because you're not of that caliber. But to turn around and say, I don't believe in a miracle is not a problem. And sadly, this is what a lot of Barelvism has become. Talking about saints and talking about miracles as you're eating your langar.
You know, you just mentioned the fact that, you know, some of these stories and these so-called miracles, you know, that they've attributed to, like, you know, people like Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani. I want to give you a bang on example. So we all know that Sheikh Asrar Rashid had a debate with the Christians, right? And in that debate, he had, apparently it was poison, according to him, and he drank that poison. Now, the funny thing is that a Maulvi in Pakistan called, what's his name again? Samar Abbas. He then tells his people of there actually what happened, and what he said has nothing to do with the reality. So I want to play that video. I'm going to play the sound, and I want you to hear what he said about the whole incident, which never even occurred. So he exaggerates, and this is my point now, that so much exaggerations have taken place in the past, and now the way they believe about Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, he did this and he did that. He used to fly, and, you know, he used to kill people by looking just with rage and everything. This is an example I'm about to give you. Yeah, let me put the volume up and just listen to the whole thing, and it's madness.
एक हमारे फाजिल दोस्त हैं, उनका नाम है शेख मोहम्मद असरार रशीद साहब। ये यूके के अंदर ये एक आलिम है, सुन्नी है, सूफी हैं, और ये बड़े अच्छे दलाइल देने वाले, और कई मुनादरे मजहबों से किए और कईयों को मैदान से भगाया। यकीन करें दुर्वेश बंदा है, अल्लाह उनकी जिंदगी में बरकत अता फरमाए। शेख असरार साहब, आपको सलाम, आपकी अजमत को सलाम, और सही हो अकीदा सुन्नी बंदा। वो जो शेख असरार साहब, उनके साथ क्रिश्चियन लोग थे, और उनमें से कई जज रैंक रखने वाले थे, और कई मास्टर, डॉक्टर, प्रोफेसर, बड़े बड़े लोग थे।
Now check this out. He goes, there were big judges over there, big doctors, and what? It was a debate. There was only 2 Christians there, and the rest of them were the audience. There was a moderator that said there was no big judges and everything. Like, he's showing like he was in some darbar or something, where they came to him and they said, "Right, drink the." Anyway, check. Look at the way he expressed.
The Barelvis are known for exaggerating, by the way. They're massive exaggerators.
No, check this. No, check this. Yeah.
जो उनसे बातें कर रहे थे, ये तौहीद बारी ताला पर ये बात हो रही है। दलाइल देते रहे, लेकिन उन्होंने कहा कि ये बातें आपकी ठीक हैं। उन्होंने कहा हमें कोई फिजिकल दलील चाहिए।
They said, give us so after arguments, given dalil, you know, Asrar Rashid gave them dalil after dalil after dalil. Then they said, right, we accept that, but give us a physical one now. It never happened. This whole thing, this is an exaggeration, yeah? Check it out.
जी तुम ही बता दो। फिर मैंने तो जो था, तुमने सवाल किया, मैंने जवाब दिया, तुम्हें मुतमिन किया है। तो वो ना एक जहर की बोतल लिए फिरते थे, कह रहे ये पी के हर बंदा ही मर जाता है। अगर तुम पी के बच जाओ, अपने खुदा को कहो कि मुझे बचाए, हम मान जाएंगे, रब भी।
So the Christians brought the poison, when in fact it was Sheikh Asrar Rashid who brought the poison. Well, the apparent poison, it was Asrar Rashid who brought it with him, not the Christians. No, let me play it.
रसूल भी सच्चा है। तो शेख असरार साहब ने कहा, अगर तू वैसे नहीं मानता तो चलो हम ये भी काम कर देते हैं। तो उस जवान को यकीन था, हालांकि ये कोई दलील नहीं है जो वो चाह रहे थे, लेकिन जवान को यकीन था। तो गाली को नहीं, वो उठा, आज भी इंटरनेट सर्च करें ना, वीडियो मिले मुझे बताना, मैं दिखाऊंगा ना आपको। वो उठा, उसने ढक्कन खोला, उनसे लेकर खड़े होकर सारी बोतल ही पी गया। उसने कहा ये मैं तुम्हारी जहर पी गया, नुआ करे मेरे ऊपर असर। जहर ने असर नहीं किया। वहां पर जो रब के मानने वाला अल्लाह के बंदों में से एक बंदा था, अल्लाह ने उसको अजमत भी अता फरमाई, फजीलत भी अता फरमाई, शान शौकत भी अता फरमाई। और जितने मुआनिदीन और मुखालिफीन थे, यकीन कीजिए वो उनके दलाइल ज़मीन बोस हो गए। और जो रब को मानने वाला था, तौहीद का परचम ऊंचा करने वाला था, रब ने उसको इज्जत भी अता फरमाई, और यकीन पर भी वो मोहर लगाई कि आज तक जो वीडियो देखता है।
And now they're going to build a big darbar of Sheikh Asrar Rashid when he passes away now, because he drank poison. Look at the extent now, yeah? This story he just fabricated, he lied, it never occurred. Who told him that this happened? Who made this full story up and told him?
Yeah, you know, a massive problem with this is, this is very problematic what he said, because it doesn't work like what he said. First of all, Asrar Rashid, I've got the utmost respect for him, because he is someone that speaks out against the problems in the Barelvi community. He's always done that from the earliest of days. So I really like that guy. I really respect that guy. And he's someone that's grounded, and he's trying to do his best. He's got a lot of opposition, but he's doing what he's doing. And even Sheikh Asrar Rashid knows that Islamically that wasn't the wisest thing for him to do that, right? But in a moment of passion, he did it. We can understand why he did it, but even he knows that that's not the wisest thing. And going back to the story of Khalid ibn Walid, the same thing happened to him. Something similar happened to him in the early days of Islam, and he also reportedly drank poison. Now, that story isn't true, right? That's a problematic story. It's quoted, but it's a problematic story.
Which one?
Yeah, the Khalid ibn Walid did the same thing.
Now correct me if I'm wrong, I remember some time back, what's his name? He's a Mufti from Pakistan, Mufti Rashid Rizvi. I don't know if you've heard of him. He was narrating that story, and he was giving dalila. This is authentic, that Khalid bin Walid radiyallahu an, he actually drank poison and nothing happened to him.
No, these are akhbar reports, right? They're not as sound as hadith. Right. So yeah, so these, I mean, depending on who you follow, someone's going to make it stronger or weaker, but I know that for me, that's not a sound report. Anyway, the problem what this guy who's praising Asrar Rashid is doing is he's praising this event, which actually is not really praiseworthy, because it was not the wisest thing to do. And number one, it doesn't prove that Allah is with Asrar Rashid. This isn't a dalil, right? Or Asrar Rashid was on the haqq because he drank poison. Now, what if the poison did kill him? And then what would we say? The other religion is correct, right? So this Imam should have corrected the truth about that story and said, listen, we have a beloved, dearly beloved. He stood for Islam. He did this. And in a moment of passion, he drank the poison. Alhamdulillah, it worked out in our favor, right? But really, this is not the right way to go about doing things. And even the respected Sheikh who did it, i.e. Asrar Rashid, knows that it was something done in the heat of the moment. But when you're turning around, this is the Barelvi exaggeration. Now, you've given a precedent to this act that it's a good thing to do. And this is why up and down India, Pakistan, we get stuff like this happening. A case in point is about a young guy, a few years back. He was in a meeting, and where the guy said, whoever loves Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, put your hand up. Everybody's, they do this sort of stuff. Kine jana Madina, bejo. As if that's got anything to do with my love. You can't lay conditions down like that, right? So he said, put your hands up. So this guy puts his hand up, and then he said, whoever doesn't love Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, keep your hand up. Right? And every hand went down, and this boy, he's like 15 or 17, didn't hear it. He kept his hand up. The guy next to him, and now, subhanAllah, he never got lynched. Because in Pakistan, the Barelvi crazies will lynch you for stuff like this. Well known. He never got lynched. The guy next to him said, oi, put your hand down. Didn't you hear? He puts his hand down. He internally is so disturbed about the fact that he kept his hand up, saying, I don't love the Prophet, that he went to a carpenter's saw, and he sawed his hand off. Sawed his hand off the same day. And guess what happened? First of all, this is the problematic extremist teaching that he was given that made him do that. And number two, he became a bit of a celebrity. People are coming to visit him, giving him money, asking him to make dua, as if that's your sign that you love Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. You cutting your hand off, that's madness. That's madness, right? That's a misguided form of love for Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Right? But did they address this issue? Did they all say, listen, don't be doing this, people? He did this because he didn't know, and he was disturbed as a result of a lack of education. His mind wasn't working properly. He thought this was the right action. Or Asrar Rashid in the heat, Asrar Rashid, Sheikh Asrar Rashid in the heat of the moment, he did it. But this is not something that we should follow, right? Poison does really kill you. He got lucky. He didn't, maybe the dose wasn't enough. You don't die from drinking that much poison anyway, right? But I'm not having a dig at Asrar Rashid. He's a respected Sheikh, and he himself knows that wasn't the right course of action, and it happened in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the point I'm trying to make here is whether he drank or not is the way he,
right? Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
The story, the way he presented the whole story. There were judges there, there were lawyers there. It's like what you talk about. It was just a debate. It was maybe in a university or wherever it was. There was an audience there, and there was a moderator and two Christian people there, and they were having a debate. It wasn't like they were just meeting someone and that's it. Asrar Rashid started giving it evidence after evidence, and then they said, right, we accept that, but give us some physical now. So they brought the poison to him and said, right, drink, and he drank it, and that's it. It's over. It's over.
When you're on stage, behind the mic, you've got to make a story, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Moving on to the next question is that, do you think peers are our community leaders? If so, why? And if they are not, why?
What's the, sorry, oh, our peers, our community leaders?
Yes. If so, why? If not, why?
There was a time in the 70s, 80s, I would say, right? Like the last would be 89, when you could say to a certain extent the peers were a gathering point, a rallying point, a focal point of the Muslim community, and the educated one were a type of leaders for the community. But I don't think they are leaders of the community at the moment. They are isolated, living in a bubble that's got a timestamp on it, dated 1970 to 1989, and it stops there, right? So then they're no longer aware of what's happening in the wider community, right? Their marids have all grown up the same age as them, and the young people are 1 or 2 generations removed from the issues that were faced by these early peers back then, right? So no, I don't believe the peers today are in a position of leadership or influence over our communities, unless you're chuff chuff, and then one chuff and the world's yours.
Right. Moving on. One thing I've never understood though is that such a big. I mean, COVID happened. People were dying left, right, and center. Why wasn't Peer Chuff Chuff? Yeah, exactly. If Peer Chuff Chuff had these so-called cures and one chuff was enough, why didn't they just get to face towards China? Because that's what they were saying COVID came from.
Yeah.
Face with and do a couple of chuffs and that's it. It's all over. COVID, it should have been over. In fact, we had to stay at home for good. How many years was it? Was it a year or two or something? 3 years?
2 years or something.
Yeah, something like that. And then we had Boris Johnson telling us, to go to work, but don't go to work, and this. I mean, if Pir Chuff Chuff had only just. In fact, I heard that he was at home as well. He wasn't allowed to go outside as well.
No, you misunderstood. You know what the actual problem was? He didn't do his chuff that day. That's why Corona spread. Right?
Yeah.
The one day he doesn't do a chuff by mistake here, the world is diseased.
Yeah. Man. Right. Moving on. Why do you think the peers all go together to boycott the Quran translation of Dr. Musharraf of Nottingham?
Right, that's an interesting case, actually. That's an interesting case. So I personally, I like the lone riders. I like them. Do you know why? They stand in the face of adversary. They stand in the face of boycotts. They stand in the face of all opposition, and they end up achieving more than everybody else has achieved. Dr. Musharraf, they don't like him. Most people don't think much of him, but he is a phenomenal person, right? Trained in England, classically trained in England in the Islamic sciences, and graduated from university, speaks the English language fluently, but he's up against a wall of opposition, right? Now, the way, like I mentioned in the beginning, the way this thing works is you have blocks of power, right? So you have peers aligned together, ulama aligned together, and then ulama aligned together. And sometimes it's realpolitik amongst ulama and peers. Sometimes people break here and go there. Like, for example, I'm not going to mention any names, but we have a lot of this happening. So with him, he wrote a Quran, and now here's the problem. In the Quran, he's translated it into the English language. Now, first of all, it's universally known that you cannot do justice to a translation in the English language. The first time the Quran was ever translated in Mughal India into Farsi, there was a huge uproar. How dare the Quran be translated? Then it was translated into Urdu, and then now in English. Now we understand it, we accept it. We don't say this is the words of Allah. We don't say this is the translation of the words of Allah. We say this is a translation of the meanings of the words of Allah. So the meanings through the way the person's understood, right? So everyone understands the meanings a bit differently, and then they translate those meanings into English, right? So like once you translate the Quran into English, you can't say these are the words of Allah anymore, right? They're the words of the individual who understood the meanings of the original words of Allah. So any translation of the English language will have the same things that Dr. Musharraf did. So a case in point is that he turned around and used, like Allah says, what's the Arabic? Under our two eyes, right? Under our two eyes. Allah's using two eyes for himself, right? Now we as Ashari Maturidis, we don't believe Allah has eyes, right? Laysa kamithlihi shay wa huwa as-sami'ul alim, Sami'ul Basir, right? Nothing is like Allah. He is the hearing and seeing. But Allah used the word eyes for us to understand. You know, when I say I'm watching you, yeah, you're under my eyes, I'm observing you, I've got your back. These are metaphors, ways for us to understand. Allah uses the same, right? But they had a problem with that translation. Now the question is their Barelviyat is making them have a problem with that translation. Translate it as it is and then explain it, right? The problem is that they tried to control his translation. They got together, they condemned him, they forced him to change it. You know, at one point he was under so much pressure, he was thinking of doing something, and I'm not sure if he left it, but apparently he did change it. They literally wanted his Quran off the shelves. Now there are many places in the Quran where Allah talks in a specific way that we know this is majazan, this is, you know, the metaphorical or allegory. It's in the actual Arabic. So why do you not have a problem there, but when you translate it, you want a different translation? Okay, I can understand they got that translated to say under our observation or under our sight, Now you can say observation, you can say sight, or you can say two eyes. Both mean the same thing. But when you take away two eyes and you change it to sight, now you've removed that original one step. Right? Now they think that they're doing that for protecting the people. But what if somebody like an Arab, and the Arab reads the Quran for himself, he will understand that verse clearly, two eyes. Yeah. He's not protected. He's seen it. But anybody who studies the Quran properly will know that two eyes doesn't mean two eyes unless you're a Wahhabi. Right? But it's little things like this. You know, they're never satisfied. And the larger problem, I believe, maybe I'm wrong, Allah forgive me, but the larger problem is power politics. You know, no power bank likes that an independent lone rider gets somewhere without you. Right? I can't put this blame on them. Allah forgive me, actually. I would retract that as well. Right? But these things do happen. Now, the bigger problem is what about your translation of Kanzul Iman, is it? The Barelvi Quran translated in English? That's a horrid translation. That's a very bad translation into the English language. Why don't you correct that translation first? Why don't you correct that translation first and don't worry about all of you over 30 years, could you not get together and formulate a correct translation? 30 years is a long enough time. That's not been, to the best of my knowledge, that's still not been corrected, but yet you're worried about him when there's other Qurans out there as well that are saying exactly the same thing in the English language that people are reading. You've not put out statements correcting any of this either. So it's for me, this is strange behavior, and it's not this one point, there are many points. Right? Someone's done something excellent. He's put a Quran out there and you're boycotting him. Yeah.
You see, this is where sectarianism starts, and this is where it ends. The fact that you are wrong. Well, your teacher, the Imam who you follow, he did the same thing. Oh, well, no. In fact, he meant this, and they start doing, interpretations, ta'wil of the Imam. But for you have to take this out of the translation, or you have to stop the translation. But our Imam Ahmad Nawaz Khan does it. Oh no, he meant this, he meant that. No, he didn't mean it this way. He didn't feel it this way. He didn't say it that way. All kinds of interpretations when it comes to that. Right, now moving on to Sheikh Asrar Rashid. The question is, why did Sheikh Asrar Rashid only speak up? Why not years ago regarding Peer Chuff Chuff?
If you listen to the lectures of Sheikh Asrar Rashid, there are clips on the internet where he has a few times spoken up. Right? There's one clip where he's got Pakistani ulama around him, and I think he's hosting that meeting or something. And he says we need to speak out. And he said in India, Pakistan, he goes, many of the ulama are under these pirs because these pirs hold unnatural power. Right? So, and these pirs need to these ulama are not independent. They have to toe the party line. Sometimes you need a stage, and you're not going to get the stage until you don't toe the party line of the Pir, right? Somebody wants to make it big because he genuinely feels for Islam. He's thinking, if I just say the haqq and that's it, I stay silent, I'm never going to be known. If I toe the party line for a while, I'll have a stage, and then I can get my Islamic teachings across, right? He says, break away. He says, condemn them, call them out. There's another one where he turns around and Bandialwi, what's his name again? Mufti Bandialwi, he's there. And he turns around and he speaks Arabic to his students. And he says to them, he goes, we've got massive structural issues. He says, we assign jiha. Like some of us don't even know where Allah is. We assign jiha for him, right? A direction for him. And when you assign a direction, that means you assign a place. And when you assign a place, you assign had, right? And all of these are problematic. And when the Alwi gets up and says, yeah, we're trying to correct this and that, basically, he's doing his best. But first of all, you must understand, he was a young gun that came under an already powerful network of ulama and peers. And he is a lone rider trying to do what he's doing, right? And why not before? Because there's only so much you can do, right? You know, he called out, like, he's busy in teaching and doing other stuff, and he has called out people in the past, but he just had the time or the will this time to say, right, Chuff Chuff's coming, enough is enough, nobody's spoken out. He gave everybody 6 days, which was excellent. And I actually thought some people would speak out. But when I saw Maulvi Muzammil Hussain Shah next to him, subhanallah, you know, that was probably the last keg of my love affair with the Barelvis done. The last nail in the coffin, right? And, you know, and he went there, right? He went there. And I know that you have a slight problem with the fact that he went there and it didn't work out for him and everything. And it made him look bad. But I personally believe that it's a good thing that he did, right? You know, to actually physically go there, because he shamed the other guy. The other guys legged it. And you go to Pakistan and make a statement, right? That guy, and when he made that statement in Pakistan, I was thinking, dude, I've never heard your voice before. You don't even speak. All you do is chuff. Now you've got somehow a voice, and you're saying you're going to challenge him, and you're hiding behind the name of Rasulullah, right? So these things are
yeah.
You know,
let me put it this way.
I salute Asrar Rashid for what he did.
You know, there's an individual called Ikrar ul Hassan. Now, when he went to his place in Balawra Sharif, as they call it, to go and expose Peer Chuff Chuff, I was very happy. I promoted his videos on my social media. I was very happy at the fact that he's done that. Why? Because Ikrarul Hassan, number one, that's what he's known for. He does that. And number two, he doesn't claim or say that so and so should follow so and so, and he is good, and he has a field. He does, let's say, a specific job, and he goes on and he does this. Now, Asrar Rashid, who is a very, you could say, a dominant religious leader or figure, you could say, he's a person. And now when you mentioned that, look, when he had, so Ustadh Ahmir Nawaz, since he's not from the UK, there's been an issue with the electricity, and I think his laptop's turned off. So Jazakumullah khair, Ustadh Ahmir, for coming on, and I hope this whole conversation was very beneficial for the audience who are watching. But what I was saying was the fact that, you know, Asrar Rashid, he is a dominant religious leader or figure, you could say. And the fact that, since, you know, as you said, the fact that, you know, he came where everything else was going on and he was trying to make it better, he could have made it better, but he made it worse. And the reason why I say that is because he started to praise certain people who are doing exactly what Peer Chuff Chuff does. As I mentioned in many of my videos and in the previous video that I mentioned, the fact that, you know, Ilyas Qadri, you know, his cures, his, you know, the dog cure, his Data Sahib ki Ghori, and all of these issues, you know, I mean, if you can't sleep, kill an owl, take his eye and wrap it around your neck. So if you have all these issues going on in your own community, then you've got to condemn that as well. Instead of going for other peers, condemn your own peers. I mean, number one, stop praising them. And if you are going to praise them, then stop going against these peers then. Peers Chuff Chuff. You can't have your cake and eat it at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, that's my final point, and we've basically reached the end anyway. But before we do end the video here, there was a brother on TikTok who, after watching the short trailer of my video where I mentioned Ilyas Qadri Saab's Data Sahib ki Ghori, so he thought he thought that he's gonna now refute me on that. And by refutation, I mean he went out of his way and he got my video, put it on his TikTok, which is fine. I allow anyone to use my videos wherever they want. If they want to refute me, do it publicly. I will respond. Anyone who challenges our platform, anyone who challenges what we are saying, if we are wrong, we will accept it. If you are doing it solely because we spoke about your peer or whoever it is, we are going to respond and we are going to give you what the facts are. So the claim was that basically I've lied, I've been exposed, that I took a clip that was out of context, and in that refutation that he did against me, number one, this individual who's on TikTok is called something like Huck, his TikTok is, and he's not showing his face. He used a recording of another Maulvi Sahib who was saying that, oh, this was out of context, and then the same Maulvi Sahib says that if you do a bit of research, you're gonna see that Ilyas Qadri, he was actually saying that in the olden times people used to do this and therefore you shouldn't do this, something along them lines. So I have the actual video now, and we're gonna see whether it was whether I was lying, whether I took it out of context, I have some malicious intentions. You can now judge, watch the whole video, and you're gonna find out. In fact, I wasn't lying. What's his name? Ilyas Qadri. He was actually promoting this. He was telling people that this works. You should do this. If you believe in it, you should be a proper believer of the Pir Sahib, and you should do it. So let's watch the video and then we'll move forward.
काफी अर्सा पहले मदनी मुज़ाकरे में एक अमल बयान किया गया था, राजा जी की घोड़ी में लगी आस, सुलह का दर्द जाए, इस तरह का कोई एक अमल था। अगर सैयद अमीर आले सुन्नत को याद हो तो वो दोबारा इरशाद फरमा दीजिए। जज़ाकल्लाहु खैर।
ये दावत इस्लामी से पहले जब नहीं थी ना, तो बकसरत ये दम करता था, फर्क है। तो दर्द की जगह पर हाथ रख दे और पढ़े दादा साहिब की घोड़ी। ये कोई बुजुर्ग होंगे तो इनकी तरफ ये मंसूब होगा। दादा साहिब की घोड़ी वही अंधेरी रात, फुला का दर्द, फुला की जगह नाम ले, फुला का दर्द फुला जगेगा। मसलन जैद का दर्द सर का जाए, सर पे आप दम करना चाहते हैं तो यूं कहें, दादा साहिब की घोड़ी वही अंधेरी रात, जैद का दर्द सर का जाए, यही लगी मेरी आस। ये पढ़कर 3 मरतबा पढ़े और दम कर दे।
So he said, you read it 3 times and then you do the dam. Now let's see whether he agrees with it or he disagrees with it.
ये सर बुजुर्गों के अल्फाज बाजू का तासीर का तीर बनकर दर्द को तोड़ फोड़ के रख देते।
So he said that some of the elders, meaning the walis, that when they say certain statements, they work in such a way that the pain disappears. Let's carry on.
अच्छा, ये वो मनन वाले जो है ना, इनके काम की बात है।
And then he says that the people who believe in this is for them.
बाद लोग बोलेंगे कि ये क्या मतलब, क्या तो फिर ठोकरे खाते रहो। अगर आपको मतलब उसने सन है और अगर आप उसने सन के साथ अल्लाह की रहमत पर भरोसा करके, बुजुर्गों पर एतमाद करके, काफी अर्सा पहले।
So basically he said that this is all about you, that if you believe that this wali, he's a wali and he's this and he's that, and you trust him and you trust that that these statements are going to work, you should go ahead with it. So now you tell me, brother, the one who did a refutation, if you have the whole video, you play it and tell me that I've taken it out of context, because what you've done is you've not even watched the whole video yourself. You've taken a clip of another Maulvi who's explaining it. You yourself have not even seen the original video. Many people saying to me that, oh, you've taken it out of context and X, Y, and Z. Now you show me the context and then we'll move forward and we'll see whether I was lying or not. So have some shame. If you're going to do a refutation, do it properly. Make sure you look at the context. Make sure you look at what I said. Make sure when you are doing these refutations, you are doing it in a proper way. Don't do it because you love this Pir Sahib or you love this Buzurg or you love this scholar. The main purpose, and I've also seen the guy's TikTok. He's basically a blind follower of Sheikh Asrar Rashid. And what I said in my video, he did not like it, so he thought he could do a refutation video on me, but unfortunately it did not work. And the same day, because the refutation came out this morning, and same evening, basically, I am, putting out this response to yourself. And if you have any shame, if you value the truth, if you value the Quran and the Sunnah, you will remove that refutation and you will apologize for saying that I exposed this guy. So I hope you do that. And if you have no shame, and if you don't have any value for the truth and for the Quran and Sunnah, then keep it open. Anyone who watches it, they will know that I wasn't lying. I was telling the truth. And I mean, keeping that in mind, this video has come to an end. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.